My first thought after getting to Africa was how beautiful it was. My second thought was the people and how rural and organic and just old world style and farmer. All of those thoughts went through my mind as we flew into our first overnight stay in Russia. The next day, after a night at the Russia Coffee Lodge, we hopped a short flight and a safari ride to the Ngorongoro crater. The crater is a spectacular natural amphitheater and used to be a volcano 8 million years ago. And then the cone collapsed and it left this huge hole, 2,000 feet deep, 11 miles across, and 125 square miles in area. Along the drive on the way into the crater, we passed a numerous amount of wildlife, including baboons and a dead water buffalo. We also saw the lions up close as well as the zebras, just strolling along on the road and right up next to the vehicle. These crowned cranes were only a few of several of the bird life that is in the Ngorongoro crater. One is feeding while the other is keeping watch. Something that really amazed us was watching water buffalo chase a pride of lions after the lions tried to isolate one of their own water buffalo and kill it. After the chase, the pride walked back to a ditch near the road by us. After a long day of sightseeing at the Ngorongoro crater, we stayed at the Ngorongoro Crater Lodge that was positioned on the rim of the crater. The next day, after a delightful stay at the Crater Lodge, we took a road down past several Maasai villages and farms and saw lots of people on the side of the road. We stopped at a Maasai village on the way to our next destination, where we learned how they built their huts out of cow manure and mud and sticks and stones. The women actually do the building of the huts. These huts are arranged in a circle form, and they're called kraals.
The boy live outside 14 months. After 15 months, he come back home, so he can be warriors. If you want to go hunting, no problem. And if you want to go to married, no problem, because I already go to circumcise.
At 15?
17.
17.
Yeah. You see, you see there were one of boy have a white outside of Roddy.
Yes.
She'll go to circumcise. Yeah.
Huh. This year he gets circumcised.
Yeah.
How do you do that?
They are too old for they know how to do that.
A knife?
Yes. Yes, I make for knife.
What about medicine?
No medicine.
No medicine. Hurt.
Yeah.
Ouch. Yeah.
Yeah. What are you? What religion are you? Christian, Catholic? Is there a religion? You believe in what kind of God, or what do you believe?
For religion.
No religion.
No religion.
No.
Your own religion.
Yeah.
Maasai.
Maasai.
Yeah.
No God.
No.
No God.
No.
You worship the land, the animals.
Yes.
Sacrifice the animals.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
So I see plastic on the roof.
And the women putting, they sometimes put the skin of sheep and goat they put outside of the house, and no water come inside.
And mud.
Yeah.
And do they do this together in 3 weeks? So all the women work together?
Sometimes. But the only one woman make the house. Yeah.
Wow. So Anna made this house?
Yeah.
She introduced herself earlier.
Yeah.
The edema is a jumping dance that displays the man's strength, fertility, and it is otherwise known as a mating dance. The Maasai men have several levels of warrior. from a new warrior to a junior warrior and then to a senior warrior. And this is all done through a display of this jumping dance, which really looks kind of easy. They do it rather seamlessly, but in truth, I think it's very difficult to jump as high as these men can jump. Their average height is about 6 feet, and it was just an incredible thing to watch. We never learned what the chanting was in the background, the higher-pitched, repetitive tones, but I can only think it's similar to a drill sergeant guiding his troops along with repetitive shouts and jeers. Many of the Maasai men wore this shoe made up of an old tire. They also showed us this dance they do before they go out on search for a lion, a hunting of a lion. They do some kind of a sacrifice or some kind of a demonstration of their prowess and their might over the lion, and it's supposed to help them kill a lion, find a lion and kill a lion. We also saw many of the wildlife animals, giraffes and zebras, and lots of grazing animals, and there was these low trees that started to appear. Now we were up pretty high, so we were descending down into the valley where there was warthogs, such as this little family here. Much to our surprise, we saw in the distance a flock, I guess they're called a flock, of ostriches that were running. It was like they were on skates. They just glide along so quickly. But it was pretty amazing to see those huge birds cruising along in the background. On our way through the Serengeti National Park, we stopped at Olduvai Gorge, where many of the world's most important archaeological finds have been made. In this location, Mary and Louis Leakey found the 3.7 million year old footsteps, otherwise known as Australopithecus afarensis. The skull they found dated back 1.8 million years old, and they call that the Nutcracker Man. What remains here now are extinct volcanic remains and grasslands, and the random lizard. This was early on in our trip, so one of the most fascinating things that we saw up to date was the wildebeest migration. Literally hundreds of thousands of these beasts, as far as the eye could see, trailing and into the distance, and this low grassland and grazing, and I've never seen so many animals. And we drove right into the center of where these animals were, and if you did a 180, all you could see were these wildebeest. And in amongst them there were other animals, prey animals. For example, there was a cheetah, and a cheetah with a kit, apparently being trained on how to capture these wildebeest. And actually there was a scent of a dead animal nearby while we were viewing this cheetah. You could see the buzzards gathering around waiting to eat the remains of this leftover dead animal that this cheetah mother had killed, and a display of teaching effort to its young kit. After several hours of traveling through this low grassland, we entered into an area where there was a lot of water and trees. In fact, there was a river running through it, and we learned that the wildebeest and the zebras travel together because one can see well and the other can hear well. So they work as a great accompaniment to each other to get through this migration with safety. Toward the end of our long 8-hour day, traveling across the Serengeti and seeing many amazing and unusual sights, we ran across this pride of lions resting in and amongst this. It was nothing less than a oasis, because around us was all arid area, and then you see this green lush with trees, and this pride of maybe 8 or 9 lions resting here. There was a male lion who was about 4 years old and close to being kicked out of the pride, which happens after a few years, and several female lions all resting and basking in the sun and just enjoying their afternoon. We were grateful to get out of the truck after riding for 8 hours to the Kasuni camp in Tanzania on the Serengeti, and we ate some dinner and then went to sleep for the night. As dusk came along, we saw an entire herd of water buffalo right outside the front of our tent. The Maasai guard the camp from up top on the kopis, these big rock formations. Then they look out for lions and other predators. After dinner, they walked us back to our tents, but around 2 o'clock we were woken up by this horrible noise, and knew right outside of our tent there was some large beast. We didn't know what it was, and we were definitely terrified. Thankfully, morning came around and all was good. We had breakfast and hopped in our Jeep and took off for another safari. This time we saw a bunch of new animals: hawks, fox, some more warthogs, springbuck, even hyenas. This one was hiding in the grass, probably stalking some animal. The trails that the Jeeps drove on were right through the middle of savanna, and wildlife was all over the place on either side of the Jeep. We went through rivers, we went past rivers. It's the only way to really see it, and you can see everything from hippos to rocky horrocks. We stopped at this one place that had a collection of animal bones, from water buffalo to elephants to giraffes, you name it.
This is a good mama, take care of the two. And if you look them, I think they
kuna masikio hapa anaambana barabara ile dume mmoja hivi ndo.
The good mama. They lose two shape too. You see the stomach? I think that she's mama give them a heavy breakfast.
I think they just ate.
If the male die, female never find another male.
Is that right? They look so full.
And if the male female dies, male never find another male, never find another female.
Really?
And if they have a young one, which is a male, after 2 years, if the young male don't want to leave the family, the male kill the baby male.
Really?
Kill him to go far away.
Really?
To make sure he's not nearby his mother. And you know when the elephant dies, some other head of the elephant, they can stay even for 2 days to make sure it's really one of the family die. And there's something they do it, they stand up on the body. If you never stand up, they will kill a lot of trees and keep up on the top of the body.
They really?
Yes.
Nakupenda, that's the mirror?
I love Tanzania.
Look at those bones over there.
That's the hippo bone?
Hippo?
Yes. The
Wow.
lion killed the hippo here a couple of
Wow.
3 months ago.
Wow,
No, 2
huge.
years
Look
ago.
Crossing the river.
On the right. Look at him. On the right?
Right. Oh, he's a big guy.
Probably the mouth.
I got the ears. Go to sleep.
Yeah, now the other one's moving a little. Okay, good.
That was how.
Hippos are largely semi-aquatic, hairless mammals, and they can weigh up to 3,000 pounds. But most importantly, the hippo is one of the world's most dangerous animals and is the #1 killer in Africa. The hippo is aggressive and unpredictable. Baboons have long snouts and very close eyes with a very deep hooded forehead. They walk on fours, climb trees. Mainly they're ground hunters and hunt in this sort of background here, the plains. They eat small insects and are typically not predators, but they have canine teeth that are extremely long and extremely sharp. But mainly they are prey to lions and cheetahs and crocodiles. A baboon troop is based on a hierarchy system. The females are dominant, and they can be up to 250 strong in member. That night when we returned, we went to the Kopi and watched the sunset. We got up bright and early and had another safari on our way to the airport, where we took our next flight. Our next location was in Botswana at Chief's Camp. It was one of my favorite. See it in part 2.